This video contains gratuitous use of profanity and uncomfortable pauses to compensate for lack of professionalism and original thought. Viewer discretion advised.
We proudly bring you the Nerdy Manroom Show with your host, Hassel and Monster. Monster, finally back with us, baby.
Yeah, been out on the road, and unfortunately had to miss the live event last week. But while we're on that, why don't we go ahead and thank our sponsor who makes all this possible, The Zone Collectibles. Their store is located in Tifton, Georgia. You can find them on the internet at thezonecollectibles@gmail.com and on Facebook at The Zone Collectibles. Visit them for all your nerdy needs, from comics to Legos, trading cards, toys, and more. Help them support the local artist community through their cause of bringing unity through community. Fandoms unite. And as we were just saying, we had a live show there last week, and unfortunately, I was unable to attend because I was out for work, as well as trying to survive this sinus infection that is still plaguing my voice at the moment. But we do want to give a special thanks to the Zone Collectibles for hosting that, as well as Mr. Daniel Garcia for coming up and signing copies of Xyber Ronin and doing a meet and greet, as well as Mr. Mittens and Big Rob who helped us out, and all the fans and friends who came to support the live event this past Saturday. It was a great event. I got to watch a little bit of it online while I was in between activities at work, and I know you had a lot of fun there. So
I had a good time. I'm not a highly successful Cobra executive myself, so I was able to make it. But yeah, we had a great time. Daniel and his ladies, she came up, and they're amazing people, and he got to meet a lot of the fans, and we had a good turnout. And Mr. Mittens, he's always fun to have sitting next to you. So we've headed him out here a few times and give him right. Big Rob, it's always a blessing. So Kev, I can't personally thank Kev enough. He put together a wonderful media room back there for us to borrow for the live event, and then just putting on everything that he did there. He hats off to him and Miss Kim and Alex. The ladies are great people. So get by Tiffin, Georgia, to the Zone and go see them people. They will hook you up. They will be good with you.
Yeah, we appreciate everything they do for us and for the show, and like I said, a great event. But with that, while we move ahead into this week's stuff, we've got a little bit of news. Not a ton this time around, thankfully. I was gone and it didn't blow up too bad, so we'll run through what we do have, and then we'll get into our topic for this week, which, if we're both wearing, I think you can't really see mine, but Uncanny X-Men shirts, as well as Hassel. So our topic of the week will be some X-Men topics, and wow, that was terrible.
Oh yeah, we went snick baby.
Yeah, you went ching ching, then you said snicked. So before we embarrass ourselves too much more, let's roll right on into news. And Hassel, you got some sports news this week?
Yeah, the Braves are still treading water. We're in fourth place, 5.5 games back from the Mets. But on some good news for the Braves, Ronald Acuna Jr. does come back tonight. He will make his major league start since last season after suffering an injury. So we're pretty happy to have him back. Hopefully he'll turn the tide a little bit, so to speak. Also, moving on to NFL news, tonight's first night of the draft. Falcons have the 8th overall selection. If they don't screw that up, so we'll see.
Yeah, I forgot tonight was the draft. Did you notice who? Cleveland has the Miz doing their draft pick announcements, and Tampa Bay, I think, has Titus O'Neil doing theirs.
Really, I didn't know that. I didn't see that.
Yeah, both of them are going to be there and doing the announcements for their individual teams, which they're both from those areas, so that's pretty cool. And all except for the fact that the Miz completely devastated Cleveland teams like 2 or 3 weeks ago in one of his promos, and now he's going to be out there announcing their players. So
he's actually a big Cleveland fan, so I'll give him credit. And my hat's off to him. As much as Miz is hateable, he's a pretty damn successful fantasy football manager. I mean, as a former Super Bowl winner of the fantasy football leagues, it's hard to do, Monster. So my hat is
I
off.
believe that. I couldn't do it. Well, if I sat down and looked at a bunch of stats, if I might figure
Yes,
something out, but
yeah, you would crunch
that's
numbers. You pull the money ball on us.
yeah, that's outside my normal realm of stuff, though. But what is in my normal realm is some of our toy news. So we saw McFarlane put up their Blackest Night set for pre-order this week. It's the Build-A-Figure Atrocitus, Kyle Rayner Green Lantern, Blackest Night Batman, Superman, and Deathstorm. All look pretty neat. I ended up having to buy the whole wave just because I want the Atrocitus really bad, and
He
uh,
looks great, dude. Oh, he looks so good.
I want him and Kyle. The others I really don't care to have, so I'll probably end up selling them all for giving them away just to get rid of them. But I've got to build that Atrocitus, and the Kyle, the fabric look that they gave his suit is just really neat looking.
Yeah,
That's probably
they
the
did a good texture on him and Atrocitus because it's the same on both, but it looks
yeah,
great.
but that's probably the best outside of an armor figure I've seen McFarlane do anything so far. So I'm really excited for those. Last week we had or actually I say last week, it was this earlier this week, we had Hasbro had a GI Joe live stream. We got several reveals that we'll go through first, and then some pre-orders that went up. But for reveals, it is mostly Repaint City until you get to one very special one. But we've got Snake Eyes and Timber in a 2-pack again, but this time the Snake Eyes is the Renegade Show version of Snake Eyes.
It looked bad, dude. I mean, it was.
It's it's not my thing necessarily. We do have retro card back Zartan, which looks almost exactly the same as what they've already released, just going to be on a card back. Retro card back Storm Shadow, which does have some different shading to the white on it. So same figure that they're already releasing, but
Really,
he's going to have
I
some
couldn't. I
shading.
couldn't tell anything. I kept looking at like, is there something different from the other version?
His forearms are different. They did the wraps a little bit differently. They resculpted those, and then everything else is just a shaded repaint, kind of almost not really a full cell shading, but closer to that. We do have Target exclusive Tiger Force Duke, which is a complete repaint of Duke, and he does come with the Ram cycle. There's a Ninjas 2-pack with a male and female ninja. I'm not even sure where these ninjas are supposed to be from. I don't recognize them at all. But the highlight of the reveals to me, classify Sergeant Slaughter. And the Sarge introduced it himself, and he had this awesome looking winged eagle belt that had an engraved GI Joe symbol on. I was like, I want that belt so bad. I don't even know where he got that from. That was just amazing looking.
And a big shout out to Big Rob, who actually got a follow from the Sarge himself on Twitter because of that. He commented on how awesome the belt was, wanted to know where he could get one, and the Sarge followed him. So, hey, way to go, Joe.
Yeah, and those were all the announced reveals we had, which I'm super excited for that Sarge, but I'm also upset at the same time because I just bought the Action Force Valaverse one, and as good as it looks, it don't look the same as this. This classified one is the swollest human being I've ever seen in action figure form. This is Hulk Sergeant Slaughter. I mean, what he's supposed to be from the cartoon. I'm like, man, I wish I had to save my money. And
I literally got the shipped notification today about mine. So yeah, I was merely a week out from not getting that and wasting my money because I promise you, had I known, I'd have just said no. But
I had both versions of Vala versus Sergeant Slaughter in my pre-orders. I wanted the version 2 to open because that's him with the tank top and it looks more like the animated series. And version 1 was the one with the jacket. And I was like, well, I'll get that one to keep one in the package because I want one in the package too. But I didn't want to buy two of the exact same one. Well, I canceled the version 1 because he hadn't hit my pile of loot yet, but version 2 was sitting there. So I'm like, well, I'm stuck with that one at least.
And what does this do to resale of the Marvel, the Mattel WWE one that they put out with the Superstars card? A lot of people were buying those and opening them and to put them with the classified figures because we were in fear because he is signed with Valor or whatever it is that you wasn't going to get that Hasbro version.
I don't know if it hurts that one as much just because that was the exclusive suit that he's in, the one that you had to have all the little tabs forward order.
Yeah.
That version of because it has the USA on the shirt. So I think you'll still see resale of that one go up because that would have been like the Chase version of him back in the day. But the Valorverse version, I've seen them selling reselling for $60, $70, $80. I think that'll bottom out quickly. So yeah, after the reveals though, and then we got several pre-orders that came out for the GI Joe. We've seen these before, but now we're actually getting the chance to order them. Zorana, Dusty, and Crimson Guard were all regular release pre-orders, and then you had Target exclusive Tiger Force, Recondo, Bazooka, and a Python Patrol Cobra officer that all went up for pre-order. Really neat looking figures as they always do with these, but I ended up ordering several of them myself. I'm not gonna lie. I've got a Recondo on the way in the package and to open. I got a Bazooka, a Dusty. I think you went in for Crimson Guard as well.
I got 2 Crimson Guards because I have to open one. It is a must. Got a Dusty and a Zorana, and then a Bazooka. So almost a full sweep. They almost got me. So
Yeah, they're trying hard with those, but looking forward to more of the stuff. And I think some of the reveals we saw will probably come up for sale or pre-order in June when they have their Yo-Yo June, which isn't but about 4 weeks away at this point now. So I'm sure we won't see any more probably till then.
On Slaughter, how fast he sells out.
Oh, dude, I don't even want to hear that because I need 2 of him, one to open and one in package.
Yeah, I'm hoping he's not an exclusive to anywhere, so I can get my hands on 2 of them myself. So
yeah, I feel you there. But with that, something else. While we're on Hasbro and Mattel, we'll actually on Hasbro and then Mattel, we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about those and some different aspects. But Marvel Legends did their Fan First last week, their live stream. I think you talked about it some on the live show the other day. But one of the big things they're really getting hit for is you talked about the price increase and that sort of stuff. So that was a big deal. But the bigger deal that we're seeing and what they're getting hit with in every interview they've been doing since then, and I've seen a few of them, is the packaging, the non-plastic packaging, which is a directive completely from Hasbro's corporate office to, I guess, in 2019. And I didn't even remember this. I had to go back and look it up after I heard it. But they said that they were going to get rid of plastic in all of their packaging for a more environmentally friendly packaging, because apparently what happens is when they go out to recycle, because it's half plastic, half cardboard, they don't take the time to cut the plastic out of it, and it just gets completely thrown into landfill waste and trash. So they're trying to go completely cardboard to say, we got to do something to help the environment, which...
So we can't have a small plastic window over our plastic toy we sell.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of some of the things I've been hearing, but I think the 2 big things that people are talking about is, okay, look, you take away the window. For one, that does there are 3 things. Let's start with number 1. That affects the inbox collector like myself, because now I just have a box sitting there. So I don't know what's...
You can print that son of a bitch off the internet and fill your walls full of them.
I don't know what's in it unless I break down and open it, but then that defeats the purpose of being an inbox collector, right? Because now you've broken the seal. That's one thing, but the other 2 concerns I'm hearing from people and seeing is, how do I look for blemishes and QC issues? Like, I received my Tiger from Super 7 today. The Thundercats logo actually has a big gash right up under the chin of the cat, and it's like a big open space where it's scratched. I don't want to see that when I'm looking in the box. I'd want a different one if I was picking that up in the store, right?
Yeah.
But you can't do that now. Now you won't know if maybe somebody's eye is not painted, or Spider-Man's supposed to have 2 even eyes and one's half the size of the other. So he's inquisitive Spider-Man. I don't know.
It's almost like they're doing it as a way to kind of cut back on their QC. Like, hey, we ain't got to worry about it now. Once they get home with it,
And I've seen them skirting around the question of what's going to be the increased QC to make sure these things are good. Now, most of us collectors buy by the internet at this point anyway. So you don't know you're not walking in the store and looking at it and saying, oh, I'm going to get that one because it looks better. Now, if I buy one in the store, I still do that. I actually did that this week because I bought Fisto from Masterverse, and I was like, he was on sale for $12 in Target, and I was like, oh, they got 3 of them. This one's box is beat up. This one's a good box. This one's a good box. What's the 2 figures? Like, oh, that one's beard is scratched off and it looks half gray. I'm gonna take the one with the full red beard.
Yeah, you start weighing the 2 cards against each other. Like, okay.
Yeah.
You look, and sometimes you have to sacrifice whether it be packaging or a card or a figure. When you can't do that, it's just box. And let's face it, that's only cool as a '78 Kenner Millennium Falcon. This isn't.
Yeah. And the other big one, and this is the one that people are complaining about even more, is the figure swap dilemma.
That's
you
what
know,
I
you got
expect
these
out there.
You got these entitled people that go buy them, take them home, take them out, put in, a loyal subjects figure and a twig, and put it back in the box and close it up. Say, oh, there's Groot and Rocket Raccoon. It's a Ninja Turtle and a piece of stick.
Yeah. If they even put a figure back in there, guys, I've already seen pictures.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they're just pictures people are putting out there to put, but like somebody had a Twinkie and a Coke they had shoved in a 2-pack, like you don't know. As long as it's kind of weighted, you're like, yeah.
Well, and then people working in a Target or Walmart half time don't know who the characters are, don't know what it is. They just like, okay, scan it, put it back in, it gets back on the shelf. Now you got a figure swap on the shelf, but you can at least, as a collector, you can say, oh, somebody screwed that up. I'm not buying that. Now it's just going to be the cardboard box. You can put anything back in there, scan it back to the store, get it on the shelf. You
Yeah,
go in
because
there
how
and buy
often
it.
do you already see this with the window? I mean, how many times have you been in a Target or Walmart or somewhere?
Oh man, Walmart.
Just scanning by and you look and you see a cable package, but it has Professor Xavier in there. You're like, yeah, something's not right here, buddy.
Yeah, it's going to be even worse now when you buy one in the store and you take it home and you open it. And it's going to drive people to go completely online buying. I think to get it from a reputable store like a Big Bad or Entertainment Earth, where you know that it's not going to have the figure swap. You just don't know. You're still not going to know what the QC is, but at least I know it's going to be the right figure when I get it.
It's a little better of a gamble because between the guy that doesn't want nothing but loose figures or the stock boy that collects, you're at a mercy right there. And I would be pissed if I bought a figure because I have bought figures and later on say, you know what, fuck it, I'm gonna open this.
And
if I would open something 2 years later and it was not what I want, and it's supposed to be, I would be pissed.
And you know what's going to be even worse is you're going to get it home and you're going to look at it and then you're going to be trying to figure out, okay, from now on, am I going to buy online to get it? Well, that hurts the retail store, but the retail store gets to figure first a lot of times because I'll swap some of my orders occasionally because the retail store's got you by the short and curlies to get you to get their stuff first before they find you, and they're also usually $1 or $2 cheaper. And I'm like, as much as the prices are rising, I wouldn't mind swapping some out for $1 or $2 more per figure and get like 4 more figures and save $8-10. And now it's gonna be like, yeah, I'm just gonna have to wait now because I don't want to get stuck with something.
90% of what I buy nowadays comes from Big Bad Toy Store. Shameless plug right here, guys. Give us 10%. Hey, but 90% of what I buy comes from them. I'll occasionally pick up a figure if I'm in a Target or a Walmart or something. You just happen to stumble upon something, but I live in South Georgia. There's not a lot around in our area. It's just the same 3 He-Men on the shelves and the same 2 Flint Lady J. That's all we have.
Most of mine are online too, but if I find one in a store earlier, I'll go ahead and usually pick it up as long as I can see it. But yeah, and I just did that this week. I bought the White Ninjetti Ranger because mine on Hasbro got pushed back until June because Target is just now getting those, and they're like, oh, we don't have enough to do subscribers as well as Target. Target got them. Hasbro didn't. I can buy it from there for right now, and I went ahead and got it. Well, mine is here tomorrow. I gotta pick it up tomorrow at the store.
So
I might go down.
Are you getting 2? Or are you going to open one, or did you cancel the second?
No, I haven't canceled the Hasbro one yet. It depends on if I get the one for Target, and if it's damaged packaging or something, I'll end up opening one and buying and keeping the Hasbro one later. But if not, I'll probably cancel it and just keep the one because the only of those that I'm opening is the Red Ranger. So I did order 2 of the red one when it comes out
to put on my shelf. You buy 2 because you want to open them, and one arrives well before the other, so you have to wait.
Yeah.
Judge the packaging. The Baton Alibi you sent me, they're sitting on the shelf, and I'm just waiting for my other 2 to show so that I'm like, so I can measure which is better.
So are yours of those on the way, by the way? Because I actually saw 2 of those and I saw them in somebody's buggy, so I couldn't grab them. When I went in the store to pick up a couple of early Power Ranger figures, and I was like, hey, I see those, and the guy was buying them, but that's the first time I've seen them in the store.
There was about 4 days there where I was scared to check my email because every time I looked, I was getting an arrival notice, and I was like, "Holy shit, it's getting bad."
Yeah, I got the same thing this week. I had 8 figures drop in the same night from Hasbro. Four Power Rangers, Lightning Collection, and then 2 Transformers for my son, and they all I got an email, and I just kept getting email after email after email every couple of minutes for for 10 minutes straight. I was like, what the crap?
I
They
had
all,
various different things, but the worst I got that was all in combination of that right there was a Thundercats when they
yeah, I got
decided to finally
those.
hit landfall, and I was like, ah.
Yeah, they got me for those. My two of mine have shown up. The others are in. The rest of them were in my pile of loot. For whatever reason, when I ordered Tiger and Palmyra, I had turned my pile of loot off to order something else right before that, like a few days before that or something, because I wanted it sooner. And then just didn't neglected to turn it back on. So when I ordered those, it went straight to standard shipping. I was like, damn.
Ah,
'Cause I've got like 8
uh,
things sitting in my pile of loot, and I was like, oh, I could have just
well,
put them with
the
those.
day after I selected to ship my grocery list this coming, Groon hit, and I was like, of course you do now. Of course.
Exactly. But while we're on the toys, let's jump ahead to Mattel, Hasbro's biggest rival, and saw today kind of breaking news that they're
Rising
starting to hold,
news.
yeah, starting to hold informal talks with a number of private equity firms about selling the company off. Um, I know that they had trouble back in like 2016, 2017. They've had slumping sales every year since. In 2017, Hasbro actually tried to do a takeover of them, but they failed in the bid to take them over. And since then, they've been trying to rebuild their sales back to where they wanted to. And they said this was the first year that they've had a turnaround of sales. It's been a growth year, and it's going to continue into the growth mode. So it makes sense they're trying to sell now, get some more money backing, get somebody, get some new investors in there, and try to continue to grow. But just came out of nowhere that they were just talking to people like, bam, we're going to start talking to people. And the Wall Street Journal is the one that actually revealed it. And I'm like, well, it's not like it was just a leak. This was a truthful, they're talking to many equity firms, and apparently
It's full blown once they start reporting. And when I seen it today, I was like, just Lord, I was like, wow. They got a shit ton of great properties and brands. I mean, they shouldn't be struggling. I mean, they've got some quality stuff there.
all the toy market, I guess, during the recession really took a slumping sales, but they apparently took them much worse, and they started earlier, which is surprising considering all the stuff they have. I think one of the ones that's really brought them back in this past year is He-Man, because it actually even got nominated for Toy of the Year and stuff, and some of the big toy competitions and all. So they were really trying to survive off of them this past year. But again, like I said, Hasbro tried to take them over before and failed. But it should be noted too that while Mattel's been struggling, Hasbro's had good sales, but they're also in their own little corner of the world getting beat up right now because they're in a proxy battle with Alta Fox Capital Management, who's one of their largest investors. They want them to get rid of Wizards of the Coast, which is, not just all the current games, but also holds their Dungeons and Dragons and several other mythic properties like that they have. And they're fighting to keep it, but their biggest investors so wanting them to chuck
Well,
that
what's the
off to the
purpose
side.
of them wanting them to get rid of it? I mean, is it bleeding money or
Lag,
something?
lagging sales in that area. The rest of the company's profiting up. And they've got some new games coming out now, but how many of those games are really played as much now as they probably were, especially in person, like Dungeons and Dragons. Probably harder because I mean the gaming like that has kind of gone online now to say, hey, we were all locked down for 2 years, so we started playing it over a cam. And do you really need all the miniatures and all this other stuff? We just need the rule book at this point.
Yeah, pretty much.
So that was pretty much all of our toy news though. But coming out of that. I think the next big thing is we had some movie and TV news. Like I said, it's been kind of a slow week, but kick off into the movie and TV area. Power Rangers franchise. They're trying to work a deal to bring back David Yost, Billy the original Blue Ranger, for the 30th anniversary season next year.
That's big. It's really big.
It is. He is the longest running Ranger outside of Tommy Oliver. He was the only one who stayed through all of the original show. He left in Zeo in the second season of it. And it's been no secret that he left because it was due to a lot of the harassment from the crew and stuff about his sexuality because he is homosexual and just a lot of negativity about that. And it wasn't, from what I understand from watching interview stuff with him, it wasn't necessarily the normal crew that's always there with him or the stunt people or the actors and stuff. It was kind of like maybe this director comes in and doesn't necessarily like it, or maybe this cameraman comes in and doesn't care for it. But the main crew that was with him most of the time, he was very good with. And I guess he got tired of what he was facing and left. And said he's been open in the past to coming back. There's just never been a reason for his character to come back. And you know, now I think they've really progressed as far as their tolerance and everything else. And you know, if they can woo him into it, it'll be a big get for him, because he will be a big get, not just to be an original Ranger, but also just that camp
Well,
of
he definitely
LGBTQ
needs
community.
that. Well, yeah, there you go for there. I mean, that's a niche that I guess you got to cater to and whatnot. But he definitely just fits the mentor role now. He's at the perfect age. You know, he's
Yeah,
not. You know, he's just right to be that you, but you can still see possibly orphan out at some point and kicking a little ass. So he just stays that line there.
I would love to see all the living original crew come back, including the three new ones who came in when, you know, the first three left. I'd love to see them all in there just for, you know, for a string of episodes or a movie or something, just to see them all back with a new crew and be like mentors to all of them. But so they're not gonna. Hasbro might be more willing to spend that money. Saban was never going to spend that kind of money. He's like, here's a limit. You get like two people.
You got 3 episodes to cut from, and you've got these 2 people. Go.
Yeah, make it into one. But while we're on some of this, so that's great news. But while we're on some of this movie news, let's talk about some slightly less great news with Ezra Miller, who's, we talked about this a few weeks ago when he got in trouble in Hawaii, but he's been arrested again last week in Hawaii. Once again for more disorderly conduct. Apparently this time he even threw a chair and hit someone in the head, apparently, and caused a gash in this lady's head. He's working himself right on out of a job with Warner Brothers and DCEU, especially now with, was it Discovery that took over Warner Brothers now, and their new head wants to really reinvigorate the DC comics and the movies and stuff. And you know, they're not gonna sit there and deal with this much longer. He's pretty much out the door.
He's going to be in Amber Heard lands where he's supposed to be.
Yeah, and you
He
know
can
what?
be shit beds with her.
And they're calling for her to be cut from Aquaman, but it's already been mostly
Yeah.
shot. So they're like, we really can't cut her, but we won't invite her back. If that makes you happy. So very, very, and actually, I don't remember if I mentioned this last time, but the prequel comic they were doing for the Flash movie yeah, it was axed, and I saw that was happening, but I never got a cancellation. But then I finally got a cancellation from my online comic store order from the, hey, this comic will not be resolicited, canceled per the publisher. So we will credit your account for this money, because they charge you ahead for them, right? But
Yeah.
like, we credit you for this, and it'll go towards your next order or whatever. It's like, well, there goes all of those apparently. And then this week I think they had CinemaCon, which was kind of the convention for the movie studios to talk about some of the stuff they got coming up. Sony had a few announcements in there that we wanted to share. They did mention that they have the 5th Ghostbusters movie in the works. No talent or plot details assigned to it yet, but they are greenlighting it for the go-ahead, so be on the lookout for that. Spider-Man character El Muerto is going to get a standalone movie with Bad Bunny set to star as the titular character there.
Dude, I'm gonna be honest. When I first seen that headline, the site that reported it put WWE superstar Bad Bunny cast,
He's a
and I
guest star.
said, "What the actual fuck?" No, he is not a WWE superstar.
No.
He is a Latin sensation. I'll give him that. Not WWE superstar. No.
And you know what? I actually don't mind him in WWE because he tries so hard to do the stuff and to be a part of the show when he's there.
He's respectful. I give him that.
Yes.
And I got no hate
But he's
on
not a
him.
superstar.
He's not a superstar. I was just like,
And this is a character disappeared in what, 2 issues? Maybe?
yeah, maybe. He's not a big. I don't see why he's getting a spin-off movie of any sort.
I think they just did it because
Who's he even going to interact with?
I think they just did it because they wanted to give Bad Bunny a movie because he's Bad Bunny.
He is super popular right now, and if you're going to capitalize, but find something else for him. I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, and then
a damn Fast and Furious movie or something.
Yeah, there's more of those to come. One more at least.
Unfortunately.
So they also shared 15 minutes of Spider-Verse or Across the Spider-Verse, which surprised they shared that considering they pushed that back from October of this year to June of next year. But shared a 15-minute sizzle reel of that, and then dropped the name for part 2 of the sequel is going to be Beyond the Spider-Verse. And then,
in 2029.
at the rate they're going, yeah. And then they teased Venom 3 with a logo of Venom 3 at the end of their sizzle reel for all their upcoming movies and what they're working on right now. So looking forward to that, I guess. If you enjoyed the first two, they were okay, but I've not been impressed with Sony's ability to create their own superhero movies. If they're not just saying, "Hey, we license the character, but we'll give it back to you, Marvel, to do your movie," it hasn't been that interesting.
Well, I like the actor who plays Eddie Broad, Tom Hardy. I like him,
He's not even signed on for Venom 3 yet.
but it's almost like they take these characters and they don't fully understand them, what makes them, and they just throw something out there because he's not really Eddie Brock. I mean, yeah, he's a bit of a failure or whatnot, but I mean, he tries to do this comedic thing back and forth with the symbiote, and Eddie Brock didn't do that
Yeah.
at all. He still doesn't do that. I mean, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, you're in the same boat I am. I'm like, why? I mean, the first two weren't terrible. I don't see a need for a third. I'll watch it
They
if they
done
make it.
Carnage a little more, a hair more justice than they did Venom, because I will say they were actually able to give him his actual origin, so to speak, true origin. So okay, we cool with that too. Well, other than the fact that they wasn't cellmates, so okay, we get beyond that. But to me, you just can't have Venom without Spider-Man. I don't care
Yeah,
what
I agree with you.
You can't.
Oh, I fully agree with you. But since we're on Marvel movies, quick reminder: Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is scheduled for release next Friday, May 6th. Looking forward to that one myself. So we'll see where they go from there as far as how they're going to wrap all this multiverse stuff around and into and whatnot. But
The press pictures look really cool. They had some like mirror thing that they stood in, and it gave like multiple, reflections from angles. It looked really
yeah,
cool.
everything I've seen of it looks really good so far. But I am looking forward to that. But with that, we've got one more news topic before we get to our focus areas. And Hassel, this is the one you brought to my attention because I almost missed this yesterday. But the WWE 2K22 has was it Bonsai Pack? Is the name of the pack?
Bonsai! Yeah.
Who all was it? I saw Yokozuna, Umaga.
You pretty much got the Samoan family there. You got Yokozuna, Umaga, Rikishi, and Omos. He's the only one there. He was the oddball for some reason.
Wasn't there a female wrestler in there too?
Oh,
I thought there was a
it
female
was.
Japanese wrestler that they've had on the show before, but it didn't really relate to the Samoans. But I thought there was. I'd have to look at it now to see.
Maybe Google this guy. I downloaded it and I played with him, but I don't recall the
I have
female.
not purchased it yet, but I actually haven't played the game since I got home this week from work, and so I'm a little behind on mine. But are you looking at it now? Because
there's.
I was trying to do the same, but my phone was not cooperating
She's
here.
one of the NXT chicks.
Yeah, so it is somebody, right?
Yeah, it's one of the little girls from NXT.
Okay, so nobody important. I mean, the main part of that was the Samoas in anyway, but still.
You could have just had the Samoan family there and been fine. I haven't played with Almost yet, so I'm kind of jury's out on him, but I have played with the other three there. Yeah, they were pretty fun. And I will say that they made Umaga and Yokozuna both badasses. Like Yokozuna's a 90 on there. It's like, wow.
Yokozuna should be. Mago, I'm not so sure.
It's like year one for Yokozuna, so he's still mobile. He's doing things. I really enjoyed playing with him the other night.
Well, cool. Well, with that, I think that gets us through all of the news topics this week. Like I said, it's kind of a shorter week, but we want to get into our focus topic. Like we said before, it is based on X-Men. This week, we're going to do a top 10 list, which is... Yeah, I watched that the other night when we talked about what we were going to record this week. I turned it on to go to bed. Top 10 list. We haven't done one in a long time, but we're going to do one this week. It's top 10 most underrated X-Men characters. So, a couple of things to note first is list is in no specific order. At least mine's not. I didn't go.
Mine's not either.
I did not go that number one is the most underrated or anything. I just listed out 10 of them. It's completely subjective. These lists are all just our opinions, right? And we'll share our opinions as we go through as to why people made our list. And as we've done in previous top 10s, we'll go back and forth. One of us will do our 10, and the other will do theirs, and 9, 8, whatever. But for anybody who's watching, if you agree or disagree with any of the ones we put on here, or you just want to share your list, please do that in the comments. We'd love to hear your input, because this is always a fun topic of who you think is this or that. And we wanted to make it interesting. We almost started out with top 10 X-Men. And we're like, yeah, that's probably too easy. So let's do most underrated. And before we get into that, let's talk about what we consider underrated as far as why we chose, or what underrated means for us. So Hassel, how about you? What was running through your mind when you said most underrated?
Mine was two things basically: underutilized characters and characters that they used properly for a storyline or two, and then just tossed them aside. I mean, which is almost the same as underutilized, but it was just so many great characters that have been passed to the X-Men universe throughout the years, and yeah, build them up and introduce them in a great way, and then it's like they don't know what to do with them, and they keep going back to the same ones. I mean, you're gonna have your Wolverine and Cyclops and Jean Grey and Magneto and Xavier. Beyond that, you kind of start muddling lines a little bit with a lot of it.
Yeah, same for me. I mean, it's about the potential of the character, right? Have we seen the character fleshed out? Do we have a full? Yeah, are their powers underutilized, underemployed? Have they made any character development or growth for the character? And every one of these is going to have points in time where they have had some of that. But what I'm looking for is, on a consistent basis, did we do that?
Staying power.
Yeah. Did we bring them up and make them powerful, then drop them off the face of the earth, or did we bring them up and use them in a story? And when I say consistently, let's be honest, every character is not going to have a consistently good story. There's stories where Wolverine's completely useless in the story, even no matter how popular he is. But consistently, 8 out of 10 times they're going to produce a story that works around him. These to me are characters that are like, okay, they're extremely powerful, and we don't do that, or we didn't do anything to develop the character, or we read one or two stories about them and then we went in a different direction. And that's what I was looking for when I said underrated character. So I think we're on the same wavelength. It's just, hey, we wanted to explain this to everybody who's listening and say, okay, if you want to share your list, or you want to jump on any of ours or disagree with any of ours, feel free to tell us why, because it's a great conversation point.
Fuck off. Come on here and tell us to fuck off.
No, I get that enough at home already. Bad thing is, there's only two people in this house, me and my other side.
Ooh. I typically get it myself about one night a week. So
yeah. So why don't we jump into the list straight away? And why don't you go first, since I've been talking a lot here and everybody's getting tired of hearing my nasally stopped up voice, I think.
I'm proud of you for, we've done X-Men this week, so you let your beast fur grow. I've noticed your coat's coming in pretty nice.
That was my graying coat. I'm gray beast at this point, almost white beast. But the reason I did that is because I got homesick, and I was like, it takes so long to shave my head and my face, because I do both of them at the same time. I only like to do them once a week, since the head I can't do more than once a week. You get bad razor burn, right? Shaving my face I can do multiple times a week, but I'm like, it's kind of pointless unless I'm gonna break the razor out and do both. But then it's like a 2-hour process at that point, because shaving the head is extremely long, and then you got to exfoliate the skin, then you got to do the face and stuff. So I didn't feel good, so I was like, man, I don't feel like doing this for 2 hours. Now I'm gonna have to break down and do it this weekend regardless, because I do it usually on the weekends. But now I've got to do it this weekend because I'm going back out to the work site again. I've got to look presentable, so I'm like, damn. By the time I felt well enough,
man, just embrace it.
By the time I felt well enough to shave it, I was like, dude, it's like Wednesday, and I leave again on Sunday. So, this is just going to have to stay till Sunday now. Now I'm not going to shave it now and then turn around and do it again Sunday and have razor burn everywhere.
I was just telling you, you're embracing your dark half.
Nobody will say anything if I let it grow. I can't stand this down here. Annoys the crap out of me. And right here, because it fills in all the way up to the eye line, I don't like this.
Oh, you got to shape up your beard, brother. Go to a guy, chop your sides, chop the neck.
Oh, I can do it myself. That takes even more time, because then you got to be precise and like, does it measure up even? And yeah, no, it's just not worth it.
I have a great barber in Tipton, I see. So
yeah, I'm not there.
We're going to kick off with someone I'm very passionate about, Omega Red. He is somebody who, when they introduced him, he was such a kick-ass character. He looked great. I mean, he had the it factor. When you see him for that first panel, it's like, holy shit, this guy looks legit. And for like 2-3 issues, he kicks the shit out of the whole X-Men, the whole team. I'm talking about in the gold and blue days when you had legit storytelling and writing in teams. He stood his ground, and then he just progressively, every time he was introduced back, it got, we're like, we don't know what to do with him. And so he's become a joke, like a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I can't understand why they do that with characters.
The only story I have even seen with him that was even worthwhile in the last 10 years was this X Lives of Wolverine storyline that he was in. And he was time hopping through time and taking over different people's bodies, trying to kill Xavier before Xavier existed, try to kill his ancestors and stuff. And Wolverine was time hopping through his own body mentally, trying to stop Omega Red. It was like, this is the first time I've seen him do anything in like 10 to 15 years.
Well, didn't they resurrect him on Kakara, but they didn't cure his carbonadium dust?
Which is why he went to the past to kill Xavier for Mikhail Rasputin, Colossus's brother.
Okay.
Because he's working against the Krakoa and the mutants there.
Well,
so that was actually good.
If they wouldn't cure that for him, they are kind of assholes.
Yeah, and that's actually a good storyline with him. And I wasn't planning to buy it, and I ended up getting it because I read the first issue, and I was like, okay, now I need it. But
if they use him properly, I don't mind you buying a trade of that.
But it's not consistent, right? It's like I haven't seen anything out of him in 10 to 15 years, and then they do one good story.
Yeah.
Well, like what we were talking about earlier, it's just they don't consistently do it.
And you watch when they write him off, you won't see nothing else again for a while.
Oh, no. For me, I come out the gate swinging with one of them, and I'm going to probably get some flack back and forth because this one's had some times where he's been great and some times where they undercut him, but Iceman. I mean,
That was my number 2 right there.
He's an Omega level mutant. You get great stories with him in the past where he's part of the team. Then they tried to build him up in the 90s and then fell off again. They brought him back several times. And now, the only time they write him now is when they want him to be prominent because of his sexuality and stuff. And I'm like, dude, I really didn't have a problem with them making him necessarily gay because he's been around a long time. And he's had a lot of girlfriends, but it never worked out. So maybe that's why. I get that. But the fact that that's the only thing that they bring up every time he's on a panel now is they focus only on that. I'm like, dude, he's such a great hero. He's been around since the 60s. Why do we have to only focus on that? If they get past that, I wouldn't even have had him on this list because some of the stuff they've had him do in the past couple of years has been really impressive as far as his powers. But again, it's just because, hey, he's the gay X-Man. Why? I have no problem with him being gay, but why is that the only reason he's good?
That's my thing right there. I mean, they started in the 90s. I mean, you got a taste of what he could be with Age of Apocalypse.
Even before that, when Emma took over his body, remember?
Yeah, well, I was thinking for some reason that him and Emma went on the road after Age of Apocalypse together.
That was before that, and then him and Rogue went on the road as well. I think after Age of Apocalypse, him and Rogue on the road.
That little time gap there, though, they were really playing with his power sets and making him a badass or whatnot, and then here and there throughout the years, you've had like certain things. Like I want to say when Ron Gurney was on the book, I forget if he was writing and drawing or maybe he was just doing art. But around 2005 maybe that he was doing that because that's when Juggernaut hit the team. During that little run right there, they did some great things with Iceman. Like he was like freezing the moisture in the damn air in the room and like doing all kind of cool things. And
he could tell when extra people walked into the room because he could feel the body heat and change in temperature.
And then like he fell off for a while again, and then I like Michael Bendis. He done a great job with young Bobby. I didn't get behind the whole just turning him because I'm convinced that they turned him homosexual just to pop a headline. And then they had to go convince the adult one, oh yeah, you've been queer all this time too. But that's them,
the way they did it was kind of lame. But
they could have done a better job of putting it across. And I said, that don't even bother me there. I mean, honestly, other than I don't believe in changing a character to change a character. I'd rather create new characters myself. But one way or the other, they don't do anything with him. And now, like you said, the only time he is discussed is for that. when he's got such a great skill set. He's a great character. I mean, he is like an awesome character himself.
He's one of your original 5 X-Men.
Bingo. Yeah, he was my number 2 as well. So you kind of got me there
Well,
with that.
Since I took your number 2, I'll go ahead and do my number 2. Then we'll be on the same field. But my number 2 is another one of the original 5 is Angel.
Okay.
I think he gets more love as Archangel, but still, even with that, after the 90s and some of his great storylines he had as Archangels in the late 80s, early 90s, he was just there. Even as Archangel, they're like, we don't really know what to do with him. He's just here, and he's got deadlier wings, but what's he doing? And as Angel himself, they downplayed his powers. Like everybody's like, oh, he's got wings, he flies. He had more than just that. He actually had an enhanced strength and stuff because his bones were hollow, and his muscle structure, just like a bird, his muscle structure actually was much more dense to compensate for the hollow bones and allow him to fly and carry people. And there's scenes in different books where he's like when he's with the champions and stuff, like he's holding up buildings that are starting to collapse. I mean, he's not a Peter Parker level. Like he can only hold it for a few minutes before it falls, unlike coming out of it like Peter does or something. But he's not a weakling by any means, and they don't use any of that stuff, like his speed and his strength like that to fly up and hit you at the strength that he has. It would take you off your feet pretty easily, no matter who you are.
He's another one that during that time frame where they made him be able to hold his own against the entire team of the X-Men.
Yeah.
And then he joins back up with him, so you got a hell of an ally. He was kicking all your asses, now he's with you. And then it's like it was almost like after Executioner Song, like they didn't know what to do with him.
Yes, exactly.
That seemed to be where he kind of trailed off for a while there, and then he kind of hit a resurgence again. When X-Force took off, was around 2010 or so.
Yeah,
it kind of took back off again, and then now it's like they keep muddling the line back and forth of what they want to do with him.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Even when he's Archangel and stuff, like, and I like the fact when he's Angel and he can then turn into Archangel when he needs to get a little bit more hardcore in a fight. But they don't even use that. It's just like, yeah, we don't really call him to go to the fights and stuff. He's off doing something else. So that was my first 2, and I know your first 2. So what's your number 3 then?
Shadowstar.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, dude, he was such a great character. I really liked him. He always had a very cosmetically appealing look to me. Both versions, the original and then the white and orange X-Force look. I liked it. I dug it. It was cool. He's a badass. And I mean, okay, you changed Bobby Drake to have a homosexual character. Well, shit, you kind of had one there. Or
that's true.
Bi or whatever. But you had a great character that's established.
Yeah.
Why not use him? But I mean, he's such a badass too. On top of that, he can kick the shit out of people. They do nothing with him. Like nothing.
Yeah, I don't even.
I can't recall the last story I seen with him.
He was recently in X Factor. They did like a 10-issue X Factor series, and he was in Mojo World fighting in the arena. They got him out of there, got him back to Krakoa, and that's the last I've seen of him.
Well, is that the X Factor book where they had the yellow and black suits and Gambit was on the team?
No, that's the one.
Some corporation or something was like backing them or something.
No, this is from House of X, X Factor, and they're the investigative team on Krakoa. So, like, one of the things that's brought up is, hey, that all these mutants die and we resurrect them, but sometimes they die and we really don't know how. And we don't have anybody investigating these missing people or the ones that just disappeared or whatever. And that's what they were. And they had North Star, Aurora, Polaris, Boy, and Prodigy, which are some of the younger X-Men. And then I think Rachel Gray was with them some here and there too. So it wasn't a bad book, but it was very short-lived. Like they canceled it right away. It just 10 issues is all you got out of it.
Yeah, he was my number 3.
Yeah, number 3 for me, I'm still in the old school. I'm at Havoc at this point. I'm just kind of going through the timeline.
Stole my number 6.
All right, so we'll share this one. So Havoc is, to me, he's just as powerful. He's probably even more powerful than Cyclops, really, because his power can radiate outward further. But they underplay him. They cannot decide if he's a leader or not a leader. They can't decide if he's psychotic and crazy or normal, especially now. Like ever since the inversion and Axis or whatever that is, they cannot decide if he's a good guy or a bad guy. And he freaks out several times in the current Hellions book he's been in and stuff, which is canceled now too. But
Thankfully,
it's like he was such a great character. He's the Summer Brothers in the shadow, and you could have played that. So they did that so great in the '90s X Factor. Like he's trying his best to be what Scott is, but he's just not quite the same.
trying
He's
to
learning
find
how to
out the
live
shadows
without.
of
Yeah,
being under the legendary Scott Summers.
yeah, he's trying to become his own person in that. And then they just stop doing anything with him. They bring him back every now and then. They can't decide what his character's like now. Before X Factor run, when he was on the X-Men and they were in the Outback and stuff, he was even more than Wolverine. He was the hothead of the team. He was not the leader he was developing to be. He was, I get angry all the time, so I just unleash my power. And that was good for him to be, Wolverine was kind of mentoring him to calm down, which is kind of crazy in the sound. But then he becomes this leader character, trying to get out of Scott's shadow and be his own person, and then he falls off the face of the earth.
Well, I was one of the people that was excited to see him going to join the Avengers Unity Squad. I wasn't a big fan of the way they done that title to begin with, but I was like, you know what, this could be good for him. I'm a fan of the character, so I was like, okay, cool, this looks to be something. And Henry got to lead the team. He led the Avengers.
Well, in name only, he was supposed to be leader, but Captain America undercut him every time he gave an order.
Yeah, he did kind of cop block him a few times.
Which was another thing of how they downplayed his characters. Like Cap normally would not do that, and Havoc's not a terrible leader. Now, would I put him on the level of Cap or Scott or anybody else? Probably not. But at the same time, you told him you want him to lead the team. Let him do it.
Yeah, so I was kind of excited. Then they done Axis where he went evil. And I guess, they done the thing with Kang where they lost their children because of Kang, and he's half crazy for a little while, and then it gets real muddly after that.
Well, he was never cured from the Axis inversion. There was a few characters who were not present or were like protected from the psychic wave that went out that changed them back. He was one, Sabretooth, because he became an X-Man for a while. But like Havoc finally got fixed by Emma Frost and one of the much later runs of X-Men right before they started House of X stuff. Now in House of X, it's like he can't keep it straight and keep it under control. There's like little cracks in whatever she built in his mind. I'm like, dude, you live on an island with Jean Grey, Emma Frost, Professor Xavier. You can't get your mind right?
Yeah, come on, man. Let's get it together, baby. Let's get it together.
With those people there, and then you got like you even got reality warpers there, like
Legion's there. I mean, if you can't get
I was trying
Legion
to think of
multiple personalities, come on. I mean, that's the master of multiple personalities.
If you can't get help on that island right now to fix your mind, you got far worse problems you need to worry about.
My right, fool. Yeah, I hate that because he's such a great character. They can do a great deal with him.
Yeah. So that gives us, since we both had Havoc and Heistman, that puts us both at 4 each, right? At this point.
Yes.
So for 5, so you go ahead first with your number 5 because I think we'll still be on the same pace. Sorry.
I got Forge.
I had him as well.
He's a character that I've always thought was really, really cool. A technopath. Come on, you can do so much with him, and he's another one that they play off that BS crazy card.
Yeah,
like he don't know what's going on sometimes, or if he wants to be a psychopath or a damn good guy. Or I'm like, oh come on, man, it's just lazy, right?
The best storylines he's had were when he had before they had the siege and stuff, and they fought the whatever the other world the character he had to fight was. They caused them to all be considered dead and go to the Outback. But the only other time he was good was in the 90s when he was with the blue and gold teams and building all their stuff, and then went to X Factor and ran X Factor for the government.
It was really cool all through that era there, and then I forget why he just kind of fizzled out. But I don't remember really seeing him again until he showed up in X-Force.
He showed up in Astonishing X-Men in Josh Whedon's run.
Okay, maybe that's what it is.
Because you
They
remember
find
he
him on
had
a
the ghost
spaceship or
boxes.
something.
Yeah, and he had
Yeah,
the
yeah,
ghost
yeah,
boxes
yeah.
and stuff. That's
Okay.
stupid storyline that made no sense.
That's the storyline I'm thinking of, but for some reason I thought it was X-Force. But I remember the arc. It's what's the artist that done the Wolverine book when they killed off Sabretooth the first time
Oh man.
with the Mosma blade or whatever, and chopped his head off lamely.
Yeah, I can't think of who you're talking about. I know who you're talking about.
Starts with S, but anyways, that was the art on the cover I remember, because I remember the damn boxes you're talking about. It's like
Those ghost boxes, that was a stupid story.
yeah, Josh, you dropped the ball on that, you woman hater.
Besides that, Forge's power makes him actually probably one of the smartest people in the MCU, and they never talk about it because, yes, Beast has probably got more degrees and smarter. Reed Richards is smarter, but they're smarter in the fact that they can think of, okay, here's a compound or here's a string theory type thing that we can come up with. But Forge can look at anything and say, I can build whatever you want. Just tell me what you want out of it, and I can build it to do that.
But you got a lot of scraps and do it.
Even Reed struggles with that because Reed's got to plan it, engineer it, write it out, and build it. Forge will just start cobbling shit together to build that right then and there because that's what his power is.
Ooh, off on a tangent here. How badass would Forge be working with Reed Richards or Tony Stark in a book?
I would love to see them. Actually, I'd like to see all the Marvel smart guys actually working on something like Black Panther, Forge,
That would be badass.
Reed Richards, whatever they would be building would be awesome.
I would read a book. It could be one of their main titles, and he could be their tech guy. Let them say, "Look here, I'm man enough to say, you know what, you're my guy. Build this for me."
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. I'd love to see him do more with him. He is so underutilized and so poorly treated
You got
as
a
a
bang
character.
Storm. Come on now. Y'all
Yeah.
lost her to Dracula. Shit.
Oh, so my next one was actually Banshee.
Ooh, that's a good one. I didn't have him.
You know, he's one of those guys who's been around forever. He was in the early days of the X-Men. He's come back and joined the team. Been on the team multiple times, but you bring him to the team, you kill him off or get rid of him, lose his powers. You bring him back, you kill him off and lose his powers again. What is so wrong? This dude has an impressive power set that people underplay because they're like, oh, he just screams. For one, his screams can destroy a lot of stuff, but for two, he can use the currents from his screams to fly. He can actually create hypnotic suggestions with his voice and stuff, and make you basically mind control you with the subliminal messages from his voice. I'm like, dude, y'all never use any of this stuff. Yeah, they never use any of this stuff with him.
To me, he's a cooler Black Bolt.
Yes.
Does he have? He's not the power level of Black Bolt, but he's just a cooler version. You can do so much more with him. Black Bolt is like, oh shit, we killed everybody. You know what I'm saying? With Banshee, you got something there. You can play. You can do some stuff. I mean, come on, man.
And not only that, but he's not just as an X-Man, but he's been trained as an Interpol agent. He's a police officer. Yep. You can use him for so many things to create a task force with the X-Men characters and be like, hey, here we're going to be a global police force working with Interpol, but we're X-Men people, and you could build relations and bridges there with him, but they constantly want to kill him off or cut his powers off and get rid of him because they don't know how to write him. And
that's the thing, and I think that's a problem within Marvel right now. Or not,
yeah.
I don't even say Marvel, comics in general. You have some lazy writers that just don't know what to do.
Even now with the House of X stuff, and they resurrect them, Moira calls him for help when she loses her power and turns against them and stuff, and she's now what do they call them? The Omega Sentinel. She's one of those now, and she calls him.
Is Omega Sentinel?
Yeah, he goes through the portal to meet her because she calls him, and she chops his head off, and she puts his face on her as like a mask so that she can use the portal. And she walks through the portal, and I'm like, why did you just kill Banshee again? You just brought him back, gave him a chance to be on the X-Men in the vote. Now he didn't win the vote, and then he was in Secret X-Men book, and then you killed him again. Now you're going to resurrect him, no biggie, but why? Why do we waste him?
That is why I cannot read X-Men right now, because it's bullshit storyline where every time they're just killing people just to kill it, and it has no shot value at all anymore. It's like, he'll be back 3 pounds later.
Their lives have no value at this point.
Yeah. At which point do you lose the true them? Like, come on, at some point you got to be losing something. I mean, look at poor Ben Riley. The Jackal did him this way, and he went crazy. So,
Yeah. So who do you have next?
my next one's Bishop.
Oh wow, I didn't even think I didn't even consider him as an underrated one, but yeah.
But dude, like he pops on the scene in the '90s. He's such a kick-ass character. I loved it, and I loved him even more in the animated series, even though they give that really bad Southern accent that I didn't really understand why he got that. But I loved him in the animated series. I loved him in the show, the books. I was a big fan of him, and I did a lot of things with him. He was one of the few characters during Age of Apocalypse that remembered, so that brought him a little more prominence.
Yeah.
And then they done was it Extreme X-Men?
The one where they were kind of a police force.
Yes, yeah,
Yeah,
with the
he was in
and
that.
the red suits. I
Yeah,
remember
yeah,
still
yeah.
being kind of big on that there, and it seems like shortly after that he kind of faded off, and then they done that really terrible storyline with Cable and him and Hope.
Yeah, that killed him for
I didn't
me.
like that. I didn't like them trying to turn him into a bad guy at all.
Nah.
The story got worse and worse and worse. Then it just shows back up like nothing had happened.
Yeah.
Like,
And, I mean, they're
what up,
trying to use
guys?
him. They're trying to use him more now in the Marauders, and he's the war captain for the Krakoa since Cyclops rescinded his position to lead the X-Men team that they were putting together, and so they're trying to use him more now. But at the same time, they don't really focus on everything he can do.
I haven't seen them do much with him since that crap with Cable and them. I remember I read a few issues here or there, I guess, where he was there and they vaguely touch on it, and just for whatever reason he's moved on.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess
But
whatever his beef with Hope was no longer matters. But
well, supposedly she was the one that supposedly started everything.
yeah, but it's future timeline. So which future are you going to go with? I guess it was his version versus Cable. So
Yeah, there you go. So what you got next?
my next one was Sunfire.
Ooh,
I thought he had one of the best looks for his classic look out of any of those old characters like that they brought in,
mm-hmm.
and he's extremely powerful because his power is not just fire; it's actually plasma, which is, that's the heat and the fire inside the sun. That's a chemical reaction. That's a nuclear reaction. But just like Iceman, he should be extremely powerful. They never use him. He was the first one to look and say, "Hey, I came and helped you guys out, but I'm not joining your team." You could play off that so much and bring him back in for different storylines and stuff. And he's just been mistreated over the years. He's had his legs cut off by Lady Deathstrike.
Oh wow,
He's gotten his powers back. He had one of
yeah.
the coolest looks and power sets inside of Age of Apocalypse. And
Oh
then you
dude.
come back and we do nothing with him again.
Well, you come back, you revert him back to his normal stuff, and he has an actual great retro look. He's
Yeah, I
one of the
love
few
his
whose
old school
retro
look.
look I still like. I mean, is it as bad as that? Badass as the Age of Apocalypse? No. Yeah, but you cut his legs off. It becomes one of the four horsemen in the regular timeline. So
Yeah.
he goes right back to the Age of Apocalypse look. And then, because like, wasn't it him and Gambit at the time were a horseman together?
Yeah, Gambit was death
Gambit was death, and he
and he was
was
famine.
whatever.
Yeah, he
So
was famine.
but then they fight it off, and they kind of work. And so you think they're going to do something there, they don't. Then he's like popped in and out throughout the last few years, but I mean, they could do a great deal more with him than what they
He's
do.
on the X-Men team right now, and they hardly ever show him other than to show him, oh, show up and shoot the swall of fire and go do this, and then you leave. He gets like 2 panels out of the whole book. He's not even hardly in it.
More and more you tell me about this book that I'm not reading, thankfully. It's something like an episode of Super Friends, where like for 30 seconds you have Mr. Tornado fly through and
He was
scoot
called
back
Samurai.
off. Yeah, that's the name.
So let's do a quick check. How many do you have left on your list?
I
'Cause I know we've
have,
shared some, so I kind of lost count.
I got 4 left.
I got 4 as well. Okay, so I just want to make sure we're on the same level. Now, do you have any honorable mentions, or did you just have the 4 left?
I do have one honorable mention. I do.
All right. So we'll continue going forward. And I just wanted to do a quick check just to make sure we were on the same amount here. So I just went, so it's your turn.
Gambit.
See, I didn't go for him because he's has so many consistently good stories. But yes, he is right now.
He's just
Right now,
faded
he's
off
just
in
Mr.
the
Rogue.
last 10 years. I mean, he started out, I mean, he was like kicking Wolverine's ass in the books. You know, he's got a little backstory with Storm. And through the 90s, he was such a prominent character in the blue and gold. He was a
Yeah.
part of the animated series. Everybody, he was actually probably one of the more favorite characters on the animated series,
Oh, yeah.
regardless of who you speak with. I mean,
Oh yeah,
even
yeah.
though
He
most
was
people,
he had that cool charisma about him.
yeah, yeah. And he has a lot of really great storylines leading out of there. And then it's like at a certain point, probably shortly after, I guess, Apocalypse made him death, it's like they didn't know what to do with him anymore. Like he
Uh,
lost his cool factor, and I don't understand why, because he was such a cool character. Like
that's
he would
because
disappear for a little while, and he'd come back, disappear for a little while, and they did
they took
that.
away all of his mystique, man. There's nothing left to him anymore. So now it's like if the more you know about him, just like Wolverine, the more you know of the story,
I
the
was going to
less
say
cool
that.
they become.
Back when he was Logan and didn't know who James Howlett was, he's far more interesting.
And
Because
he was,
it's cool to always chase that, but and
yeah,
tease some stuff, but or maybe get a little sliver here or there. But once you just pull, it's kind of like Oz. Once you pull the curtain back and you see the great and powerful Oz as an old man back there, eh.
was the same thing with Gambit. He was much better in the chase to try and win Rogue's heart as well as be an X-Man than it is now that he's married to her and he's Mr. Rogue. Nobody really cares about him. They just care about her.
I
It's
mean, it's
like,
road. If
yeah,
she would call you sugar, you'd care.
yeah. My next one was Rachel Gray.
Mm.
This girl has been, she is nothing more than Jean Grey light, and not even that because you got Emma Frost and Betsy Braddock and all around, but they hardly ever use her for anything. She's always this angry little woman with spikes on her stuff now. And it's like she's been a Hound, she's been an X-Man, she's been the Phoenix for Christ's sake, and now even though she's still just as powerful, you don't do anything with her.
So
Honestly,
they were
since
still using her
Excalibur,
kind
she's
of
been wasted.
Yeah, they were still using her a little prominently when I was still reading, so I hadn't considered her. From what I've looked lately, Jean Grey is more of is when she didn't know if she was Marvel Girl or that went back to that old look like you're not 17 anymore, honey.
No,
And I was like, ah.
and that's what they treat Rachel like she's the older child, the more petulant older child of the Summers kids right now. The way they write her right now,
Oh
but
really?
honestly, since
Ugh.
Excalibur and stuff, to me, she hasn't been. She's been there and she's been doing stuff, but she's not been forefront and prominent. Before that, she was a huge part of the X-Men books because of the future she came from and
Yeah.
trying to prevent some of that. In Excalibur, she was probably the most powerful member besides Captain Britain, and she was a focal point for a lot of it. But now she's just kind of there.
Like I hate Bottilo's artwork, but I did like that story they did with her
Oh,
where
well, where they tried to kill all the family off,
yes,
and she got the big tattoo on her back, and
that was a good
now
story.
now they don't even touch on half of that stuff.
Really, it's terrible.
Yeah, yeah, it's a waste. So who do you have next?
I got a goodie on the next one. You might pop for this one here. Strife.
Oh man, that is a waste of a character they had.
Man, he was such a great damn villain. I mean, he's Cable without fighting the virus. He's unhindered. He's unchecked, and he was raised by Apocalypse.
And he is the most petulant villain. There is no redeeming quality to his villainy.
No, it was like
He's
a
like
lot of villains.
he's like the little brother you want to kick the shit out of half the time. Like kick him in the chest and holler, "This is Sparta down the stairs."
Well, like Magneto, even Apocalypse, you see like certain aspects, like, well, he ain't wrong. It ain't right, but he ain't. As Falcon will say, he ain't really wrong.
Yeah,
You know, but with Strife, it's like, oh, you're such a douchebag. There's
yeah.
nothing there. But you like it at the same time. And he's such a powerful and he's got a great cosmetic look. Even though it's a very dated look, it just transfers over. It's kind of like Magneto. Yeah, he was created in the 90s. I mean 60s, I'm sorry. But that original look is the best they've ever given. I don't care how they try to
Oh,
tweak
dude.
here or there. Stick to what's tried and true. And Strife is one of those that costume will still look just as damn great 20 years from now.
Oh yeah. I mean, it was straight villainy, and that's all he was. And it was perfect for his character.
And you can pull Executioner song now and reread it.
Oh, that's
It
one of the
holds
best ones to
up.
me. Yeah.
It holds up. It's such a great story.
That's one of the few that I still have all the issues, but I don't have the collected edition. I need to get it because I love to just pop that one out and read it every now and then.
But see, I'm the opposite. I have like hit and miss. I probably have like 7 of the issues, but I have to collect. So it is one I used to dust off every couple of years and try to reread, but I'm a little overdue. I need to kind of bring it back out.
Yeah, that's same for
Who
me.
do,
But
who do you have next?
well, since we're on Executioner Song, this one's going to be a not a huge part of that one, but he was a bigger part of one of the teams, and that's Cannonball.
Oh, I muddled the line of getting him several times. He would have definitely been an honorable mention.
Dude, he was leader of the new units. He shared that duty with Mirage, Moonstar, whatever you want to call her. But then he became a leader in his own right, especially when they became X Force, and he was Cable's right hand man. But he was like the field commander under Cable as the general. But then
But
Cable
don't,
left.
Danny gets more love than he gets for some reason. I don't get it.
Yeah, but then Cable leaves, and he's like, "Well, now I'm going to take over the whole thing here," and he runs the whole thing himself. Then he's the first of the new units to graduate and become a true X-Man. And when he became an X-Man, I was like, for the first few issues, I was like, man, they're really downplaying him. And then when he takes out Gladiator in that Christmas special issue they wrote,
Oh
I was
yeah,
like, they finally did him justice.
dude, how cool was the cover to that book that where he went to the X-Men? Like I still remember, like he's in that new outfit and he's got a duffel bag over his
He
shoulder.
walks away. Yes.
Dude, that is you can't redo stuff like that. It's so great.
And then he takes out Gladiator and just completely decimates him and is like, well, your power is all based on how confident you are. How confident are you now that you've hit my blast field and it didn't do anything? And then he hits him back with his own energy. And then, he became an Avenger. And they did him okay in the Avengers. He really didn't have much to do there other than whatever he was given to do as a task, but he really didn't have many lines and stuff. But with the Extreme X-Men was another time I really enjoyed him because he shows up there and you got Storm and Bishop running the Extreme X-Men. Cannonball shows up as a member of the team, and then he puts them all in his place and actually leads half of the missions they go on towards the end of the book. He's like, yeah, I've got all this figured out. Where have you guys been? But now they do nothing with him. And I really miss the external stuff that they had with him where he's supposed to be immortal. And they
Well,
wanted
that was a storyline that never really came to fruition. It seemed like they
no,
didn't.
and then they keep backtracking it now, saying no, we were wrong. He was not one, and the external still exists, but he wasn't one. It's like, why couldn't he be? Why did you have to take that away? I mean, that was one of the biggest things about him was he's immortal. But what does that matter? I mean, he's still on the team. He's still doing his part. Why did you have to take away the special part here?
Well,
Because
the
nobody knows
last
what to
few,
do with the story, I guess.
yeah, and in the last few times I've seen him kind of played out in the book. All they wanted to play on was his southern roots, and he was basically like chewing cornbread. It was like, oh, come on, what the
Yeah,
hell, people?
yeah, yeah. So who do you have next?
Vulcan.
Fair.
I mean, this kid is introduced. You finally get the third son of brothers. Not who you expected. It's out of left field. You get it. It's okay, cool.
Technically the fourth now because we finally did get the third one much later on.
Is an extreme
Yeah,
confirmed?
yeah. And X-Men Legends is confirmed because
Okay.
that is a continuity straight book, but it's telling stories from the past. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, whether he's third or fourth, at the time he was introduced as third, even though he robbed us from extreme and give it back. Thank you, Marvel. But he's introduced as such a badass. I mean, you got the Deadly Genesis story. That was a good story. It redone a lot of things. It made Xavier like a fucking douche, really. But yeah, which is the only thing I didn't like about the story. It did kind of make Xavier villainish, and that's the first time you get that really like, ooh, he's kind of slimy. But he was such a kick-ass character. And then he goes and rules the Shi'ar,
Yeah,
fucks his own uncle up pretty good. And does a lot of really bad things. He's such a powerful character. Then it's like him and Black Bolt battle in space, and which is a pretty cool story. And it shows just how damn powerful he really is. And then it's like they didn't know what to do after that.
no, they didn't. They killed him off in that, and then they brought him back now with House of X.
Well, I'm saying once he's returned in House of X, he's just a background character.
It was they started. I thought they were going to do something with it because they started in a couple of the before X-Men. Because X-Men ran a series and they stopped and they rebooted it another number one. But when they were running the previous one, Like the first 5 or 6 issues was all about the Summers family. And like he kept having like little blanks in his memory and stuff and having these bad nightmares. And they're like, calm down, calm down. And they're all living on the moon, and one of ththese little habitats Krakoa is built for them there. And he just walks out onto the moon at one point and just unleashes a burst of power just because he's having issues in his own mind. And I was like, are they going to go somewhere with him? And then nothing. 5 issues, and it was all about them and him. And then he's just now they're living with them. So because all of them live in the same habitat as Havoc's there.
I seen something
Cyclops
briefly about where they were living together and hit like they're at a grill out. That's really all.
Yeah, they're at a family grill and stuff, and
he's out here cooking fucking hot dogs. This is a badass character, and he's just eating hot dogs.
Something was wrong with his mind, and they never fixed it, but they never did anything else or explained it. It's like, okay, we don't know where to go with this, so we'll just stop. I guess that's what happened. I don't know.
It's the new Marvel way.
Yeah.
So who do you have next?
We're getting down to the nitty gritty, but I've got 2 left. But my next one was Sunspot.
Ooh.
And I'll give him credit. They brought him up to the Avengers as they've let him lead some other teams and stuff. My thing with Sunspot is he's extremely powerful, and they really very rarely harp on the other powers he has, like flying and shooting the energy and stuff that he absorbs. But it's mostly about him absorbing solar energy and then being super strong, right? But when in New Mutants, he had to learn how to use that, and that's what made him an interesting character to me. Is that he had that strength, and yes, now he can fire that out as a blast. He got that later because of Gideon's experimentation and stuff on him, and that's cool to give him that. But he was one of these people who is super strong, and so most of the time he's fighting hand to hand, but he ain't invulnerable. That's the one weakness he has, and everybody else, the super strong, is there. Oh, you can't hurt them, and they're super strong. He didn't have that. He was one of those people that, he can be stabbed and shot if you can get past the heat coming off of his corona effect, but he could be hurt. So he's got to learn a different way of fighting and doing things other than Colossus will walk out there and just take the hit and then hit back.
Yeah.
He's got to avoid that and then hit you back. So
did it seem to you, and this is just for my own curiosity, did it kind of seem to you like at a certain point they started playing more off his rich corporate executive type?
That's exactly, yeah.
Around
that's
the time
exactly
he
where I was
started
going
fucking
next.
around, it was AIM, wasn't it?
Yeah. He bought AIM. They became Avengers Ideas Mechanics. He sold that off. Now he's even richer now. He's bought like some stuff he's doing like intergalactic business, and he's bought some stuff in the Shi'ar territory. He has a thing for Deathbird, and she kind of likes him, but they're not really dating because it's her and she's villainous somewhat. But I mean, they're giving him a little more to do now, but it's still also like, why are we dealing with that versus let's build his character, make him back. And he was a hothead at one time, and now we've developed his character to be a business guy, which is cool. You let him grow, and he's not just a hothead anymore, but he's not really prevalent in stories where he's being a superhero. He's prevalent in stories where he's being the comedic character.
Yeah. Well, didn't they kind of change something about his powers? Like the more he used them, it was like it was burning him out or something.
Yeah, he had the Mpox virus where the Terrigen Mists had infected all of them when it went around the Earth, when the Inhumans released that. And that was killing mutants because it would burn their powers out and all. So, yes, when he was with the Avengers Idea Mechanics, he was dealing with that. But now he's been resurrected. It's back to normal powers.
Of course. That was apparently the last thing I remember seeing with him was he was, shying away from using his powers as he had to. But I was like,
Yeah. Yeah, so who's your number 10? Because I think we're on the number 10 now, right?
My number 10 was Onslaught.
Oh, dude.
You talk about a fucking kick-ass. Just can you think of a way of bringing a character in any better?
That was a great story when he first appeared.
The story was great. I mean, you first hint of who he is. He's sending Juggernaut flying across the planet. He's like messing with Jean Grey. I mean, you had a really great story that after that, where you lost major heroes to keep him from, the Hulk had to bring the Savage Hulk back to tear him apart to get to that point to where the other heroes could sacrifice themselves.
Right.
It's a great story. So if you were going to bring him back, why do it in the ways they've done it back? I mean, literally, he's been too many series that I could think of. since then, and they were both trash.
Are you including the recent one? The Way of
Yeah,
X?
well,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. I remember the one with the Heroes Reborn that they done a little mini with them, but it had the heroes from the Heroes Reborn that a branch of Avengers and that reality. Where Bucky kicked his. Matter of fact, I think Bucky wound up kicking his ass in that.
Yeah.
And then they just done this other one here where he was hiding in the shadows there of Kakarot, and they done nothing.
Yeah.
Didn't Nightcrawler defeat him in this one?
Yeah. Nightcrawler and Legion, mostly Legion, because he was feeding off. Every time they died, he would feed off of portions of their souls and stuff when they would return, which could have been a great storyline, but it's like, where did this? It just fizzled.
See, that could have really led to something, but
It
you would
could
have
have.
to make him a huge prominent villain again, which would expose that the danger of what they're doing there. And I think they probably realized real quickly into that story what it looked like to like, oh shit. So let's do away with it real
Yeah.
fast. It's like a sleight of hand because that would have really exposed if once he would have rose back up, I'm sure the Avengers would take notice, the Fantastic Four, various other world nations, of what these dirty mutants are doing over there.
Yeah. Yeah. So my number 10 was Multiple Man.
Okay.
He gets used a lot of stuff, but they don't use him well. And I'm like, this dude can create multiple copies of himself, reabsorbing all their knowledge. He's got multiple doctors because of that. He was Moira McTaggart's lab assistant, but most of the time you play him for a comedic effect. I'm like, dude, he could do
I
so
never
much
really
more.
understood that, or that bullshit detectives story they done for a while there.
That wasn't terrible with him because it at least gave him something to do. But like now they just have him there and he does a bunch of stuff, and it's just like, I don't know. It just seems wasted. It's like you could do so much more because he could be his own one man army. He could be his own book by himself, and be a team. And
Is it
you
still
go out.
sporting the M on the eye, or is that gone now?
I gotta look. I don't remember. Last time I saw him, I thought it was still there, but I'd have to look and see. And he was the one that I teetered on. Should I really put him on this list or not? Because they've given him so much to do, but then I look at him like, well, everything he's done has just been really kind of boring. Could have done much more with him. But with that, I think that brings us to honorable mentions. So I got 3 of them on mine, but why don't you quickly go through whatever you have on yours, and then I'll run through mine quickly, and we'll move to nerd out segment.
Some of the ones I had on mine you've already touched on in your list, so because we were of the same thought on a lot of these guys. Joseph is a character honorable mention that I
Dude, I
really
almost grabbed him.
man I loved the character. I really did. He was a character that I liked because you had a good version of Magneto.
Yeah,
Even though he wound up being a clone, and then he's self-doubting himself the whole time because he's just a clone, but he's trying to help the X-Men. And it just seems like they just didn't do nothing with him after us. Like they does so much with him
yeah.
to build him up, and then like, and the last thing I remember seeing, like I just remember seeing him posing as Magneto for something, and within a few pounds, I think he got killed.
I don't remember what he did after the main storyline he was in, to be honest with you.
But one of the last X-Men stories I remember reading, I think it was leading into all this crap with where they started doing the resurrection stuff. But I think I remember him showing up and he was posing as Magneto, and then within a short amount of time, he is oh shit, this ain't Magneto, it's Joseph, and then they kill him.
Yeah.
He even he grovels to say, hey, I'm just doing this because of this, and they kill him. But he was there and dead in the same issue.
That's kind of how they treat most of them now. But they
Yeah,
get resurrected next issue at this point.
this poor bastard did not.
So is that all you had for honorable mentions? Was
I
just
got
him?
one
Or?
more.
Okay.
Nate Gray.
He was on
X-Man.
my list. X-Man. He was on my honorable mentions as well.
I love the character up until they pulled that Jesus storyline with him.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah.
Like, I was like, why? Why?
He was again, just like Strife, he was an unvirus tainted Nathaniel Summers, Gray, whatever you want to call
Super
him.
Omega level mutant.
Yeah. And he could have done so much and could have learned so much. And I really liked it when they had him and Cable finally meet up in the books. And at this point, with the Summers clan you got there, you could have Rachel and Nate and Cable and all in the same, same cookout barbecue with Vulcan and stuff. And it would be interesting just to see them together. But he no longer exists. They got rid of him totally.
Yeah, how did that end up? I mean, I started reading that and I just like really quickly within 2 issues, I thought, if this ain't for me.
I remember right. They were off. He created a separate reality. They came back from it, but at that time he sacrificed his own energy and life when they did that. So he's not even there anymore. I don't know. It was so unmemorable that it's even hard to talk about.
Wow. So who do you have as honorable mentions?
I had, and these are all for kind of the same reason, but I had Richter, Polaris, and Magma. Richter and Magma both being New Mutants and then coming forward, and they really didn't do anything with them after that. They bring Richter out every time they just want to have him around for something. But Magma, I never understood. She was a New Mutant who had the power of tectonic plates and fire and stuff, and they downplayed her all the time, like, oh, she's a waste of space. Why? She should be extremely powerful. Same with Polaris. She's Magneto's daughter, and you use her sparingly, and you make her crazy when you're not using her, or when you're not using her well, I should say.
Oh, dude, I just thought of that one character from around the stream X-Men time. I'm about to jump in on you. What her name? Skin?
Which one were you looking for?
I think she's one of the Guthries.
Oh, yeah, that's Husk. That's Cannonball's sister.
That's one thing.
Cannonball's younger sister.
She kept taking a gold like Colossus form during that book there. It was really cool.
Yeah, and her form could change depending on what she needed because all she had to do was rip her skin off. But she was one of those, and they drove her crazy in a recent run of X-Men books a few years ago. They had to fix her mind, like she was going insane, and Toad was in love with her and stuff, and he was trying to help her out. And this is when they had
Toad's love interest.
But dude, they do nothing with those characters. They just run them off again. I mean, she's been back on there, but so has the other younger brother from their family, the one that had the red wings that killed himself. Remember, that committed suicide? Icarus, I think was his name. He's back in there now. Their other sister, Melody, who can just fly. She's in there. I'm like, what? That's great to have them all back, but what are we doing with them? Like the whole Guthrie clan is here, but they're just there. But like, there's like 8.
What made the ones that were surviving great because they had lived through that tragedy of having so many, a family of mutants basically murdered off.
Yeah, the only person who wasn't a mutant was the mom and dad. There's like 8 kids, and every one of them was.
They were a mutant factory.
Yes, they were. Oh man! But with that, while we move into the nerd out segment of the show, for anybody who hasn't been here before, this is where we ask random questions related to the topics we have, and we give each other no preparation time for answers. It's just, hey, off the top of your head, what's your answer? But we'll ask a couple questions here, and if you want to answer the question, or if you have something you want to expand upon something we say, feel free to provide that in the comments down below. We'd love to hear from you. But Hassel, I'll let you go first this time.
I went first in the live session. You got to go first.
Oh, I got to go. Okay. I got one, though. So thinking about the X-Men teams, and let's look at all the offshoot teams. Not the main X-Men or Uncanny X-Men. Which one would you want to see have their own animated show?
So I'm assuming we can't do X-Men Blue or Gold.
No. So offshoot teams. X-Factor, X-Force, Excalibur, New Mutants.
It would be X-Factor. I'd have a 90s X-Factor show with Forge, Havoc, Polaris, that group, Strong Guy. That was a very, very interesting group to me. And I'd even probably set it in the 90s and just do full nostalgia. You could do a lot with that. And if you wanted to piggyback off the animated series, you could have Iceman kind of tie in with them for an episode or two. There's so much you could tie into. That'd be a really great show to have Juggernaut Black Tom on.
I had a 90s X-Force. I'd like to see a covert team going out there. And if you made that and put it on like very similar to how the X-Men 90s cartoon was, and you spin off of that with the look of it and stuff like that, but you made it a little more like Young Justice from that's currently on HBO Max now, give it a little bit more grit to it. I think that would be a really interesting one to watch. And I'd even like to see him.
X-Force anime would be great if you were to do like the 2000 version.
Yeah, and I'd even like to see him go against Strife and the MLF and all that. But I'd even bring in Cable as their leader for a while, but then have them question if Cable is Strife because of the look. Have him split off from her for a little bit, so you could have a whole little mini series, an overarching story in there, and run it.
If you're gonna have it violent and gritty, I'd like to see the team that had done that X-Men anime do that.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
That Japanese anime, dude, the intro and the end of it, even though we got none of those characters in the damn show, was great. It looked so good.
Yeah, I actually like the X Wolverine and the X-Men animated style too. That was actually a good look.
That was actually a good show. I enjoyed that show.
Yeah, that one ended a little too early.
Yeah, that was a good season or two too soon.
So with that, what's your nerd out question for this week?
Ooh, all right. You got to write an X-Men title with a character off your underrated list, and who is your villain for this title?
So you got to write a title. So let me make sure I got it right. So it's a title about
Well, at least 12 issues, a 12-issue run with one of your underrated stars. You can add as many to it. Yeah, I mean, you can make it an X-Men title for all I care, but it's got to feature that one and then be the prominent.
Okay. I'd do a Banshee title.
Okay.
I'd have Interpol come to him and ask him to come back to work because they're facing some mass murderer, and it'd be the Shadow King is the villain who's causing the mass murder. He calls them suicides, which are he's making suicides. They're mass murderers because he's having people kill themselves, but they're all suicides. And have Banshee come back to investigate it and have him go around and fight a few other psychic mutants or stuff that maybe they're the villain until he gets to Shadow King. Maybe Black Tom runs some interference in there somewhere, and I think I'd write it like a crime story.
That's pretty sweet. Sweet. I'd read it.
So who would you go for?
I'm going Vulcan. I would have him gather together a group of mutants that he feels he can trust. And the whole time they're going to question whether they can trust him. I would have Havoc on this title because I feel like Havoc is one that would actually side with him and not really give him too much shit to where Psych would.
Yeah.
Maybe Rachel, I might want to have her on there. Maybe just the three of those. But Strife will be my villain.
Oh, that would be.
You could have some really interesting dialogue between Vulcan, who has been a shitty villain, and didn't have the greatest, past with his family, and Strife, who is technically his uncle, or I'm sorry, his nephew.
Yeah.
And he's had a really even shittier. Like you can see where Strife will be playing off of that and trying
the family dynamics would be real interesting.
Yeah, trying to mirror himself. Like, hey, really, we're a lot more alike than. And the whole book, you're wondering, will he turn?
That would be interesting.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, I'd read that. That would be interesting to read. But with that, I think that brings us close to a close today. But before we close out, we want to make sure we go through, give a few shout outs and thank yous, and give a shout out to our friend, Mr. Daniel Garcia. Remind everybody his Kickstarter for Xyber Ronin is still live right now. It is fully funded, but you still have a very limited time to go and back the project. I think we have only maybe a few days left at this point, right?
I think it's 2 days, maybe.
Yeah. But
I was telling everyone Saturday exactly how many it was, and today here I am.
Yeah, I can't remember either. But you can find him on Facebook at Daniel Garcia and on Instagram at D Garcia Comics. And you can find his Kickstarter on Xyber Ronin. It's under Dane Comics on Kickstarter, if I remember right.
It is Dane Comics, but he also has Cyber Comics. He has rebranded.
Yeah, I remember him saying something about that. I just didn't catch the whole thing, so thank you. And remember, check out our sponsor, Zone Collectibles, for all your nerdy needs. You can find them on the internet at thezonecollectibles@gmail.com, on Facebook at The Zone Collectibles, and in their store at 305 Main Street, Tifton, Georgia. Help support their cause of bringing unity through community. Fandoms unite. And Hassel, do we have a giveaway prepared for this week, or?
We do, actually. We do. And as far as the Kickstarter, it has 4 days left.
Yeah, I knew it was sometime within a week's time frame, but I couldn't remember what, so I didn't want to say it wrong.
Before we get into this week's giveaway, I do want to announce, courtesy of Daniel, thankfully, and Kevin of Zone Collectibles, our sponsor, we have some really cool pinups that we're going to do giveaways for in the future. This will be one of them, autographed, certificate, and the other pinup. So we're going to kind of, me and Monsters will get together and we're going to think of a cool way to do something for these right here. We have just a limited few of them. We'll get them out to you guys. So be viewing, sharing, liking the show, comment, interact with us, and we'll you'll definitely be in it. But we're gonna come up with something we can kind of do. And we have something pretty big coming up for Halloween as well in the near future.
Yeah, and those will be special giveaways. The weekly giveaways we do here, all you have to do to enter these is, like Hassel said, comment, like, share, subscribe on any of our social media. But for those, we'll be doing a special giveaway, and we'll have more announcements about that in the coming weeks.
But this week's winner is a guy that supports Good Deal on the Instagram. He's very, very active on our page, but it's My Spidey Adventure. And as always, the $1 Million Man always knows your price. So this week we have a Storm $1 Million bill, Magneto $1 Million bill, staying in the theme of the X-Men. And as I added bonus, as a Spider-Man fan, and I'm a Spider-Man fan, a Spider-Man $1 Million bill. So we'll get in touch with you, or you get in touch with us, and we'll make sure we get these to you. And
with that, I think that brings us to a close today. But before we leave, Hassel, tell everybody where they can find us on social media.
You can find us on Twitter at NerdyMR Show. You can find us on Instagram at the Nerdy Manroom Show, and you can find us on Facebook at Hassel Hutchison / the Nerdy Manroom Show.
And remember, all you have to do is like, comment, subscribe, or share anywhere on there or here on our YouTube videos. That enters you for a chance to win the weekly giveaways. Join us here next time. We'll be previewing Free Comic Book Day. Until then, live nerdy and give your maximum effort.
Monster.
It's a what?
A free view.
A free view? You sure it's free view?
Courtesy of our sponsor, the Zone, Free View.
Yeah, we'll be going over that next week. And until then, live nerdy and give maximum effort.